And one of the cool things about this is it's going to be a surprise when you see the different varieties we've planted in here. Guten yardening, everybody. Well, we just released a video for Team Sweet Potato where we talked about our goals and the varieties and the ways that we're growing sweet potatoes. And now it's time for you, Team Potato, because today's video focuses in on the new varieties of potatoes, the ways that we're growing potatoes here at Guten Gardening. And we've got some exciting stuff to share with you about these upcoming potato harvests. So if you're on Team Potato, go ahead and put hashtag Team Potato down in the comments below. And let's get started taking a look at what we've got growing for our potatoes this year. Let's get started with where I was just sitting. This is our biggest bed of potatoes, a 6x6 keyhole bed. And it's a keyhole, so that means we're losing a 2x2 square foot area here, but 32 square feet of potatoes. And in this jungle of potato stems that you see here, we have 5 different varieties of potatoes growing. Now, interestingly enough, each of these 5 potato varieties is brand new to us and brand new to this bed for sure, because this bed has only been used the last 2 years since we built it for growing sweet potatoes. But we decided to try potatoes this year, and so far we think everything looks great. In fact, you can see right here at the top, we've got the beginnings of our flowers on some of these varieties, not all of them, but some of them. Now, all 5 varieties planted in this bed are considered to be early season potatoes, which means that we should be able to harvest them after about 90 to 100 days. And of course, we're going to harvest all these at the same time. But the 5 varieties we have in this bed are red gold potatoes, which have a nice light red skin with a golden flesh inside. This is an all-purpose potato, and this variety is supposed to be resistant to potato scab, which is something we've struggled with past potatoes. Now, this is supposed to have a light and delicate flavor. Again, we've never tried it before, but we're excited to see that. Right next door to that, and probably our tallest potato plants that I'm seeing so far, these are our purple Viking potatoes. A purple skin, but a white flesh on this potato is supposed to be a nice mashing or baking potato. And some have compared this to a Yukon Gold, but have said that it has a superior taste. And I love Yukon Gold, so we'll see about that. Right next door to that, we have our Nicola potatoes. Now, this is kind of a special potato for us. And the reason I say that is because I think that some people, because of diabetes or other issues, don't try to grow potatoes. But this is actually an Atkins approved potato, one that's lower on the glycemic index. So this nutty tasting potato with a gold skin and a gold flesh might actually be better for you, might work well if you have diabetes or other issues like that. And this is supposed to be a really nice baking, boiling, roasting potato that manages to hold up well in soups as well. So this could be an option for you if you've been a little hesitant with growing potatoes. All right, the last 2 varieties we have here, one of them was suggested to us by one of our viewers. This is a purple Majesty potato. Now, last season, my favorite variety of potato was the Magic Molly purple potato. Not only was it an incredible producer, but the taste was fantastic. Kind of buttery, a really, really delicious potato. And one of our commenters said that the purple Majesty is superior even to that. So we didn't just take them at their word. We decided to plant some and see what we thought. So we're excited about that one. And right beside that, you have some Yukon Gem. Now, the Yukon Gem is supposed to be, we'll call it the child of the Yukon Gold potato, but it's actually supposed to have a higher yield and be more pest resistant. And so that leads us to our next experiment with the Yukons. And for us, it's not just about growing in different mediums. You'll see we have our raised bed. Now I'm going to show you some containers, and I'm going to show you a whole bunch of other ways that we're growing potatoes, but it's also about the experimentation. And one of the experiments we're doing this year is in these gray plastic food safe containers that we grew some really nice russets in last year. We have our Yukon Gold and we have our Yukon Gem potatoes side by side. So these 2 containers are a comparison. We're trying to see which one produces better. We planted the same number. We planted 6 seed potatoes in each one, and we want to see which one produces more, the Yukon Gold or the Yukon Gem. Based on what we're hearing and reading, the Yukon Gem should outperform. And that may well be the case, but we want to see it for ourselves. We want to not only see which one produces more, we also want to do a taste test. And so this is one of several different experiments we have going on. And because we've had so much success growing in our containers, growing potatoes in containers, you know, we're taking advantage of as many of these containers as we can find. When we got these containers 2 years ago, they had just been used to store paper, but this is a polypropylene plastic, which means that we can use it for growing as well. These are some of our magic mollies, which we grew last year. I told you we loved it so much, we wanted to grow some more. And we also have some magic mollies growing in some of our 17 and 18 gallon black plastic containers, similar to what we're doing with our sweet potatoes. But this isn't a team sweet potato video. This is all about team potato. Now here's another one of the containers, and what's so interesting about this is that we planted these overgrown seed potatoes in here from last year's harvest. So actually, that's what these look like as I planted, a stem that was probably about 10 to 12 inches long. So this experiment is going to let us know what happens when you plant this variety as overgrown. And if we get good production out of that, then the shorter dormancy stage, the shorter storage that we got from this variety won't be a big deal. Now the containers that I just showed you are nice and deep, but we also set up an experiment a couple of weeks ago, and I'm going to encourage you to go ahead and watch that video where we're doing a comparison of Yukon Gold certified seed potatoes and those that we just purchased organic from the store. And I'm not going to do any big spoils, but what I will tell you is now both varieties have fully emerged, both the certified and the store-bought, although the store-bought is still quite a ways behind in height and overall size from our certified. But this is actually grown in a much shallower bed with maybe 10 inches total of depth. So this is going to be a really interesting experiment as well. And here you can see, once again, we've got the beginnings of some flowering happening up here. So it looks like these are progressing quite nicely. Wow, what a difference a day makes. Little berry stop here, some heritage red raspberries. All right, we've got our raised beds, we've got our containers, and now we have our vertical gardens. This is one of 2 different ways we're growing potatoes vertically this season. This is a combo bed made out of a tomato cage that's made from concrete mesh. On the base of this, we have some sweet potatoes, and in layers up top, we have potatoes growing. Now we've planted coming out the side of here, and as these continue to develop, we would add some more hay and soil mix inside, and we planted on top. So we've got a ton of potatoes in this bed. Most of this, I would say 90% of the medium inside this, the whole way down, is composted hay. It's just hay that's been decomposing, and I do mean hay, for the last 2 years. We took all of the hay bales that we grew in behind our main garden last year. We had some great success growing in those. We took all those hay bales, brought them over, made sure everything was nice and loose. We put them inside of this vertical DIY garden, and now we have some really nice growing potatoes and sweet potatoes in here. And just like everything else, they look really nice, deep green, except for this one looks a little purple. And one of the cool things about this is it's going to be a surprise when you see the different varieties we've planted in here. Now last year was the first year we had grown with GreenStalk vertical gardens at all. We grew a red, white, and blue potato harvest. We loved it, and so this year's potatoes couldn't possibly be complete without us growing some more potatoes in a GreenStalk vertical garden. We really loved the production last year, and with these Yukon Golds in here, which is a different variety than we did in the past, I think we're going to be digging for some really nice gold here in the next month plus. Now I'm at the area where we have potatoes that are the farthest along, and it's interesting to me that they are, because what we've got here is a modified Ruth Stout compost growing setup. And we set this up in an earlier video as well. These potatoes are planted directly in a compost bin. Here, I'll take you down here and show you what I'm talking about. There you can see the compost bin underneath here in Compost Row. We took the hay that had been allowed to break down in here over the winter, hay that we had tried to grow sweet potatoes in last year, and we planted these potatoes directly in that. And this is definitely the farthest along in terms of flowering. I think this will probably be the first one that we harvest. Now, if we want to grow a lot of potatoes, we need to plant a lot of potatoes. And one area where we got a great deal of production last year was in our Ruth Stout bed. And while last year's harvest was fantastic, over 50 pounds of potatoes in just over 20 square feet. One of the things we noticed was that the red potatoes last year were attacked more vigorously by the voles. So this year we have 4 completely different varieties growing in here. We have a superior white here on the left-hand side, which is a good cooking or chipping potato. It's an early season variety. Right next door to that we have a Kennebec, which is, I guess in our area especially, a very common white potato, which is supposed to be a good roaster. And then we did something a little different. We have a mid to late season russet in here. And last season we grew these only in containers, and we did quite well with them, I would say, but we want to see what they do in the Ruth Stout bed as well. Remember, the russet potato has more fiber than a lot of the other varieties, but again, it's not exactly an early season potato. The last 2 varieties we have here are the Magic Molly, which we harvested more as a mid-season potato last year. It's the only non-white or gold potato that we have planted here. And then down at the end, we have some more of our Yukon Gold. It'll be really interesting for me to see how year 3 progresses for this bed, considering we did so much better year 2 over year 1. So maybe year 3 is going to be the best producing year yet. Last but certainly not least, we have some more fingerling potatoes growing out here in our front yard and space in this little mounded raised bed that is primarily made up of compost and our native soil. So we'll call this as close to in-ground in our native soil as we've done. And so far, these potatoes, which are fingerling potatoes, 3rd generation Guten yardening fingerling potatoes, so far these are looking really nice. I use this as the example of the DIY raised bed that you can make. I also use this bed as the example when I talked about hilling potatoes. Well, we'll see what this production looks like. But again, this is year 3. We started off with 99 cents 3 years ago, 99 cents worth of old fingerling potatoes. We had a great harvest from our 2nd generation, and now we're going to see what our 3rd generation turns into. Well, folks, I hope you enjoyed this quick tour today. There are a couple of spots I didn't show you yet, and I could have shown you everything, but I want to leave some anticipation out there. We're going to have some really cool harvests in the future. I'm excited to try all these new varieties. If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to give us a like. Leave us a comment if you're on Team Potato, hashtag Team Potato. Don't forget to share and subscribe, and most importantly, remember, when you're with us, you are good to grow.